Goes live, and we are live. I want to thank everybody for being here, which is really what I'm calling an essential broadcast. Of course, I am Glenn Hausman, and I'm with Mr. Cecil Staton, who's the president and CEO of AAHOA. And we've been going through a big trauma here, Cecil, and I'm still processing it, and emotionally, I'm still grappling with the entire situation, and I feel so overwhelmed with what is happening here. What is going on with all of our dear friends in this business? How all of a sudden we went from being at the top of our game to the rug being pulled out from each and every one of us. And I'm finding it very hard for us to process what's going on. So I'm hoping that we could do a little bit of that together. And for everyone out there listening, I hope that you all ask some questions and participate and understand that we're all in this together and we're here in the spirit of being together. So thank you so much for joining me in what is an extremely difficult time. Why don't you take it away?
Well, thanks, Glenn. I appreciate your doing this today. Yeah, I would say many of us are just simply in shock. I mean, we're coming off of 3 wonderful years for our industry with all of the statistics moving in the direction we want as business people. We want to see in our members and their businesses. And then to see something happen so quickly. And have such a dramatic impact. We are hearing from our members. In fact, we're doing surveys as we speak, and we've already gotten hundreds of responses, but we're hearing from our members that occupancies are down to 10 and 20%. Really very common story is that they're down 30 to 50%. And of course, it varies from area of the country and to the level of services within the industry and the type of market that's being served, whether it's leisure travel or international travel or events travel or just hotels up and down the highway, even truckers. The volume of travel is greatly diminished. So the change, the swift change, it's so dramatic and it is so shocking. And, you know, if I can vent for just a moment, I apologize for that, but
no, this is what this is for, Cecil.
Yeah, this is a serious time, and this virus is serious. We get that. Our hoteliers are incredibly concerned about the well-being and health of their guests. But, you know, I really do think this, in some respects, has been overhyped, and people have been frightened. And, you know, there are so many knee-jerk things going on that it is almost hard to keep up with them in the course of 24 hours, much less figure out how you're going to respond. So I'm very concerned about our hoteliers and their businesses. You know, a lot of them are still small businesses. They've put their names on the lines of the mortgages on those properties. They hire people. Their hotels are creating business for other businesses, restaurants and retail establishments around them. They're paying taxes, those occupancy taxes in local municipalities. All that, of course, is going to be depressed as well. But, you know, it's just a very difficult time. And what I'm hearing from our hoteliers is, one, we want to keep our guests safe. We want to support our staff, our employees. A lot of them are very concerned. The business goes down as dramatically as it has. How are they going to hold on to their staff? Someone was telling me the other day, you know, these people have been working for me for more than 10 years. I care about them. I know their family members. How are we going to hold on to them if I don't have any money in the checking account to keep them employed when there are fewer guests in the hotel? So, you know, it's just a tough time, and we at AAHOA are trying to be supportive in every way we can. We're, you know, fast and furious doing more education resources. We have a great team working on that. And we are moving a lot of those to the front end of the paywall, not behind the paywall, so that hoteliers, even if they're not AAHOA members, can take advantage of those.
Great. Could you just give us the place that they could find that information real quick?
AAHOA.com, and you'll be able to link from our homepage. There's also, you know, right on the homepage, a huge banner. You click on it, you can get the latest updates on the virus. We link to a lot of resources and information that's out there. So we're sort of aggregating a lot of that to have a one-stop place to come and get that kind of information. But we're really ramping up our education activities and resources. But right alongside of that, something AAHOA is great at, we do it every day. We have a great team based in Washington, D.C. We are doing advocacy on behalf of hoteliers to try to talk to government about what we're going to do about these challenges. These are real, and they're going to be lingering longer than they have to if the government doesn't step up and offer some support. Because at the end of the day, when the virus ends, and everyone believes we will get there, we will get to that point. When the virus ends, we've got to get America back traveling. We've got to get our doors open again to international travelers who come to this country and spend money. So many parts of our economy are dependent upon this.
That's right.
And so I'm drafting a letter right now that I'm sending to every member of Congress. Our team is up there every day. We're working with other groups like U.S. Travel, with AAHOA, and so many other groups in this industry to have a solid voice to government that says, you're going to have to work with us. You're going to have to ease regulations. You're going to have to make it so that bankers have more latitude in dealing with hoteliers who have those huge notes. You're going to have to look at a payroll tax incentive plan for reducing that or eliminating that for a brief period of time. We hope we're not talking about a year. We hope we're not even talking about 6 months. But we're going to have to see them step up and stop the fighting and going to the corners, and no one wants to take responsibility. They're going to have to come together and do some serious things if we're going to make this period the least impactful that it can be, rather than allowing it to balloon out and become something that we are going to be dealing with for 18 months, 2 years.
Right. And we are all dealing with this, and the issue has been sudden and sharp. And I want all of you out there to know that I too have skin in this game, right? So I am also personally suffering over here. And all of a sudden, my whole life has been turned upside down. Every single job I thought I was going to have this spring has now vanished on me, right? Yeah. So we're all in this together. I'm not just commenting on this as some guy that is passionate about this business, but it's like we're this big family, and all of a sudden we've hit this big giant tragedy, and we all need to come together and kind of figure out how to get through this together. But we have had some massive bumps, and you guys over there have had to make a really, really hard decision to reschedule the conference from a few weeks from now into August, which unfortunately, I don't think you had any choice but to do that.
Well, it was a tough decision. We held out as long as we felt like we could. It was prudent. And then ultimately we had to make a decision. Obviously, for the last couple of weeks, we've been deep into contingency planning. And so we were very fortunate that we could make our announcement yesterday with a date certain that we hope to have the AAHOA 20 convention in Orlando, the same hotel partners, the same relationship with the convention center. Candidly, they've been great to work with, and we appreciate it very much.
Right.
But obviously, as we were holding on even earlier this week, we waited and then saw what was getting ready to happen with the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, saying we really don't want any large gatherings. And then even as you saw this morning, Disney and Universal closing their parks to the end of March. So it just too much risk. We would be putting our vendors at risk as they were preparing to spend a lot of money to ship their goods to Orlando for the trade show. Everyone worrying about, should we cancel? Should we go? I'm going to be honest with you, Glenn. I was very impressed with the resiliency of AAHOA members. Yeah, we had out of close to 5,000 people who had already registered. We had a little more than 300 who had canceled their reservations, but literally 4,400 people were still hanging in there.
Amazing.
Our vendors were hanging in there. We only had maybe 28 or 30 vendors out of over 500 vendors who had canceled, and those were mostly because of corporate travel policy, right? Coming down from the top, no travel. So we just felt like it was in the best interest of our members, the best interests of our vendor partners, Let's get some time. Let's get beyond this, hopefully. Now, nobody knows what the summer's going to bring. We may still be in a difficult situation then, but we
Right.
trust it will all, the worst of that will be behind us. And so we've got it scheduled for August 9th through the 12th. Anyone who's planning to go, your registration carries forward. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. You can get a refund on your hotel if you need to. The hotels are working with us. Beginning the 20th, they'll be set up to take cancellations or to move the reservations forward to the new dates. So I hope we'll have a great convention. And Glenn, here's my hope. I hope that
Yes,
convention
sir.
will be the celebration of this
Hmm.
industry, saying we're coming out of this, we're going to be stronger than ever, and we're going to gather and have a great time, have some fun, have a great convention, great speakers, great entertainment, and obviously the best trade show in the industry. And I'm just hopeful that all of us will get through this over the next few months, and that August will be ready to get things going again, back to business.
I agree. And I'll tell you, you use the word resiliency, and I want to get into that in just a second. But I do want to tell everyone out there, I see your questions. I know we're going to get to some of them, but we really need to get through this part of the conversation. Thank you so much for the support online. So back to resiliency. I think that's one of the incredible things about this industry, and about, honestly, if I got to say, mankind, humankind, Americans, I don't know what it is, but we seem to suffer. We seem to take it all in, but then by an incredible power from within, we all seem to rebound. We all seem to be able to find that pathway forward. We made it through 9/11. We've made it through the disaster in 2009. And I know we will make it through this, but it's still, at times, Cecil, it feels like the weight of the world is pushing down on our shoulders, and that sense of despair can really become overwhelming. How are you trying to keep a level head now, so you're making rational decisions and not playing from a place of emotion?
Well, that's a great question, Glenn, and we all have to be mindful
Yeah.
of the fact that we do need rest and sleep, and we've got to take care of ourselves in the midst of all of the
Hmm.
stress that we feel at every level of our industry. We're even doing some things in our educational endeavors to try to really begin to help hoteliers understand and speak to the mental health needs that we all
Right.
have, their staff, and all the stress that's being felt. I mentioned earlier today to someone, even in Atlanta, where our headquarters are located, the schools locally and
Hmm.
in every county just about around Atlanta, school's been suspended, in some cases indefinitely.
Right.
Think about the pressure that puts on parents
Right.
who work not only for us but for hotels and every other part of the economy. The pressures that everyone's feeling. So I think you're absolutely right. This is pent up, and we got to figure out how to take care of ourselves. I think we need to learn how to be kind to one another.
Right.
In the social media age that we all deal with, and we're using it right now. It's such a wonderful tool, but it also can be a negative place.
Right.
And I think we need to take care of each other and realize that to get through this, we are going to need each other, and we're going to have to support each other in every part of this industry, up and down. And we're going to do our part. And I promise you, this weekend I plan to spend a little time with my dog and my wife, who hasn't seen much of me the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
We're going to do some cooking, and I'm probably going to have a nice glass of wine a little later this evening. And we're just going to try to relax and understand the world's not coming to an end. This too will pass. We are resilient. This industry,
Right.
so impressive, as you said, so resilient.
Yep.
And Americans do love to travel, and they're going to travel again. And we just want it to be sooner rather than later.
I agree. Now, Jonathan Newberry over here, who is curious about what advice you have for hoteliers for surviving this moment in time and coming out of it strongly. How do you prepare for a new normal?
Well, I think for the foreseeable future, we're all going to have to live with the reality of lower occupancy. Heads in
Right.
bed are going to be lower than we've had to face in quite some time. So I do think it's going to be a time when we all have to gather together our best business instincts. We're going to have to look at operations. The one thing we can't sacrifice is the health and safety of the guests we do have. We've got to take care of them as well as we ever have, because their word of mouth that it is business as usual and you can go and stay and everything's okay and everything was great. I mean, that's invaluable right now. I do think from business perspectives, this is not going to be a great opportunity, I don't believe, for the next few weeks at least, to try to grow market share through traditional marketing expenses, because the market share is so it has shrunk to such a degree that there may not be a lot of bang for your buck in some of those areas. But I do think we may need to be looking at avenues of the economy where there is still perhaps more activity. That's going to differ region to region, hotel to hotel, almost based upon where you're located. But if you've been used to dealing with one kind of one part of the business sector, you may have to sort of pivot a little bit and look at how you can be of service to another part of the clientele sectors that we all serve. So it's just going to take some savviness, and I do hope that hoteliers will look at AAHOA.com, look at the resources that we have now, but also look at the ones that are going to be coming online. Check back often, because we've got a lot of stuff in production as we speak, including one like how do you go to your local government and talk to them about hotel taxes, occupancy taxes, maybe getting forbearance on those for a while. We've already had some of our members be successful with that. So it's multifaceted, and there's no one bullet that's going to solve this. But check back, because we're going to do our best to offer resources along the way.
Yeah, I think that's great. But in the meantime, people like Gary Gobin out there are concerned about what they should tell hoteliers about their rates. I've always thought that the biggest mistake you could do is try to drop those rates to gain occupancy, because there's no demand. So you're not going to get occupancy. You're only going to hurt yourself. What is your advice, sir?
No, I'm with you 100% on that one, Glenn. We think at the moment you're not going to win this battle or overcome this struggle by discounting or over discounting. I mean, obviously we all respond today, and the savvy marketing that is done and the relationships we have with OTAs and all these kinds of things, there's a certain amount of movement regarding what the supply and demand is. But I do not think that would not be my advice this time. I think I would agree exactly with what you just said.
Great. And so did Lindsay Antonio. She agrees with that as well, which is, fantastic. I love that. Guys, make sure you ask your questions. People are talking about maybe this is a good time to renovate. My good buddy Bruce Ford and I were talking about this on air at the beginning of this a couple of weeks ago. Well, it was only last week. Feels like an eternity. About how when it's quieter, maybe it's chance to get your property in shape. So I hope some people are doing that, especially utilizing the services of a lot of our vendor community out there.
Absolutely. Well, that depending upon your circumstance, it could very well be a good time to look at those kinds of things.
Right, for sure. Okay, but I think it's you keep going back to the advocacy part, and one of the things that I've always found is that there are people that just don't understand that. You mentioned that course online, but how about in this time today? What can everyone out there do to affect differences to make them feel healthier, and is if they're participating in the system, and to get the government to actually, for once, pay attention to our needs here?
Well, look, you have a voice, and never ever discount the voice that you have and the importance and the value of that voice. No one knows your business better than you do. And so it probably is a good time, especially if you've got a little extra time on your hands at all, to make that effort to get to know your elected officials. If it's a county commissioner, if it's a city councilman or alderman, get to know them, make a call, ask them to call you back. If you say, I am your name and I own this hotel in this location, it's in your district, I promise you, I'd be surprised if you don't get a call back. The same could be true from a state representative, a state senator in your state,
Right.
even your congressman. It's
Hmm.
time to get to know them, reach out, communicate to them, let them know what is going on. Don't assume they know anything. People
Right.
don't come to
I
the,
don't.
yeah. Look, I did it for 10 years in
Right.
the state of Georgia. I was a state senator.
Hmm.
Don't assume they know everything about your situation. They
Right.
don't. You think that when they're in there making decisions and pontificating and making their speeches that they have you in mind. They don't. The only way they know is for you to stand up and say, listen to my voice. Let me tell you what is going on. This is how you can be of help to me. So, we've got some resources on that. And, if you'll be in contact with us, we will try to help you. We monitor legislation at the state level around the country. We obviously keep a close hand on what's going on, or unfortunately, more often than not going on in Washington.
Right.
And then a lot of things are going on at the local level. But the most important things is relationship. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you've already got a relationship,
Right.
take advantage of that. It's easier when times get tough to stand on existing relationships. It's harder to go in when they're really busy and have lots of things being thrown at them to build that relationship. But if you've got it, please let them know what's going on. Don't assume they know it.
Right.
And if we can help you in any of those roles, uh, please reach out to us, because we're doing this every day.
Right. So let's look at something positive. A couple of people on here are suggesting that might be a good time to retrain your staff. And if you're going to be faced with some layoffs, which may be very possible for a lot of our friends out there, then take those folks that you have left and make sure that they fully understand the jobs, and give them more of a pathway to success by training them for other elements of it, of the business as well. How do you feel about that? And maybe again, share some of the resources that you have to help with that.
Well, absolutely. It's a great time for cross training. If you're going to have your staff there are fewer guests in the hotel.
Right.
A great opportunity for cross training. And what I think all of us probably would instinctively be aware of is that people appreciate the opportunity and the hope that there is a path for them, a path
Hmm.
forward to grow in their work, and maybe have the opportunity to do other things in the future that have more responsibility associated with it. So it's a great time to think about things like that,
Right.
and to take advantage of the dedication of your people. And you probably find that even if the job they're accustomed to is not as much in demand because of occupancy being so much less, they may be perfectly willing to step into another role that you
Right.
can use and benefit from at the moment, and give them the opportunity if you can. And you may find some surprises, which again will be of help when we get to the other side of this.
Right. Switching gears just a little bit. Great point made again by Jonathan Newberry. Listening, let's talk about a little bit about communicating to guests. Right. I got emails this past week from Southwest. I got an email from Delta talking about what they're doing to clean their planes. I got something from a couple of the major hotel companies as well. What is your best advice in order to clearly communicate to potential guests that you guys at your hotels are doing the right thing?
Well, I think during a time like this, the old adage, the best communication is over communication.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it's wise to certainly, as you can, if you're able, on your website, to make sure there's a very clear statement that suggests to the public that you are very much on top of this. You understand what's going on, and these are the precautions that you are taking at your property, at your hotel. Let them know so that they have confidence coming in before they ever arrive. The other thing you could do, if you have the technology available to you, is to send an email before a guest arrives. If they have a reservation, and your system will allow you to communicate
Right.
with them ahead of their arrival, that's another good way to communicate this. Obviously, you may want to think about signage within your hotels, or even perhaps a script for checking in, where it's clearly communicated to the guests the steps that you are
Right.
taking. Now, we do have webinars. We work with a partner we have for a long time, Ecolab, So we've got a webinar on what the best practices are, and you can go and get that at AAHOA.com. That's a great place to begin if you want some ideas about steps that you can take. But I agree, this is a time for over communication on these kinds of things. People want to be, they want to have confidence.
Right.
And I will tell you, because I haven't stopped traveling, I'm not going to stop traveling unless I absolutely have to. But, even my most recent travel things were placed under the door of the hotel that gave a little bit of a summary. That can be an effective thing to do as well.
Right.
So those are all kinds of things, but certainly visit AAHOA.com and take a look at our resources that we have that can help maybe generate some ideas. And you may not utilize all of them, but some of them might be applicable to your own situation.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Staton has got to go in just a few minutes. He's got a heart out, as you guys can imagine. He's having a very complicated week. But I do want to ask you this, and then I'm going to try to end with something humorous. Well, try, because I'm not very funny. But people are asking, what about making sure your staff is doing the right things to ensure people are safe within the hotel for their own personal safety and for customer personal safety?
Well, that's a great point, because we want our staff to be healthy as well.
Right.
And we're going to have to also understand, as I said earlier, the circumstances at home, the difficulties with people with children, all of these things are out there. But I think it is important for staff that they know we have their interests at heart too.
Right.
We understand what they're going through. I think you're going to find a lot of times with staff, there's the same kind of fear there that maybe with the traveling public or the people who are seeing all of this on the news and the hysteria and everything growing day by day by day. So, I think communicating with staff, it may be time to do a little bit more communication there as well. But I do think we need to set very clear expectations that for their own sake, we want them to practice great hygiene as well in their work, and that they are really a part of the solution. They've got to feel like they're a part of the solution, but that you have their back as well, and you're going to take care of them and protect them as best you can. We've all got to work all these angles, and to make sure that we get through this together.
Well, I sure hope that people follow your sage advice, especially all those guys I see in public bathrooms on their cell phones. Come on, cut that out. Wash your hands. It's gross. All right. All right. So here, my moment of levity to end this up. I've got a great idea for a promotion for your hotels. Stay one night, get to take home a roll of toilet paper free. I think that'll fill up all of your rooms right there and solve this problem.
My wife was telling me the grocery store here, shockingly, there's a shortage of toilet paper all of a sudden. So go figure.
It's absolutely crazy. All right. So before we wrap up, how about a final thought? And let's emphasize AAHOA.com one more time.
Yeah, AAHOA.com. Take a look. We hope you'll come to the convention. I really want it to be a celebration as we're coming through this once we get to August. We're in this together. And we are working with brands, because a lot of our members are franchisees. We want to make sure the brands are being supportive as well. We're doing a lot of advocacy there. Advocacy and education, that's going to help us get through this. And we're committed to that. And I thank you, Glenn, for what you do. This is a great industry. I'm relatively new to it, but I'm proud to be here and represent the entrepreneurs of AAHOA. That's how I refer to them. And it's a challenging time, maybe one of the most challenging in a decade or two, for sure. But we're going to get through this together.
And for somebody that's only been in charge of the association since November 18th, I think it was. I know that because it was my birthday, so I don't have that great of a memory. So you seem to know so much already, so I can only imagine how much you're going to learn in the next 6 months as well. Thank you so much for being here today, and let me tell all of you out there, yes, I'm going to underscore what he says. We will get through this together, and while times may seem dark, and if any of you saw me pop online yesterday was a dark day for me, but I'm feeling perspective today. The sun is shining outside. Spring is coming. We will get through this. Let's share ideas. Let's all work together. Let's go to AAHOA.com and continue to get that training that's going to help give us that insight. And don't forget to go out there and harangue your politicians until they freaking listen to us and do something for us and help us get through this. You guys have paid enough taxes already. Let the government do something for you. Thank you again so much for being here, Cecil. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you guys for listening. I'll be back, I'm sure, in the next few days doing more of these types of things. If there's someone you want to see as a guest on the show, let me know. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.